Hello, this is David with Stupid Things People Do and what we can learn from them. Today we're going to be talking about safety, decency, and pancakes. Now, if you just heard that and you went, well, now that's a bit random, you'd be right. Safety and decency is more something you'd associate with the church than with breakfast. But breakfast is a happy time, and serving pancakes to happy time people is something you'd think would be a decently safe activity for a teenage girl fresh to the workforce. Unfortunately, there's this IHOP out in Racine, Wisconsin, which went out of its way to prove that that just isn't true. Two teenage girls, we'll call them Kat and Mindy, went to work as waitresses at an IHOP. They diligently pursued their jobs while their manager, let's call him McNasty, diligently pursued his hobbies that included, to put it lightly, inappropriate touching. That's the PG version. He also proffered explicit propositions and general sexual harassment. The disgusting behavior disgusted the girls, and they told McNasty to back off, but instead of backing off, he used the power and authority vested in him to simply make their lives miserable by screaming at them and assigning them harder tasks. The girls, however, would not be easy victims, and they individually approached the general manager. Let's call her Miss Dunce. She earns that name because she should have reported the abuses to upper management, and instead she waved off the teenagers as silly girls and dismissed their complaints. As is the pattern with these things, investigations and lawsuits ensued, and after being fired for violating the coupon policy, a much more egregious offense than sexual misconduct, apparently, Kat hired an attorney, who in turn hired a private investigator, and in response to that investigation, McNasty quit his job. This sequence of events caught the attention of the highest regional authority, the district manager, Mr. Dent. Mr. Dent, realizing Miss Dunce had violated the sexual harassment policy, fired her. But it doesn't end there. See, while McNasty and Miss Dunce could no longer mistreat Kat and Mindy, after being fired herself, Miss Dunce alleged that Mr. Dent had previously sexually harassed her. So now it's just a Russian nesting doll of misconduct, one that created a whole lot of liability for everyone involved, except the teenagers. Eventually, justice was done and Kat was vindicated in court, and this Amway of misconduct came to an end. But what's our takeaway? Well, I chose the story for a few reasons, and not just because I could name a two-faced district manager, Mr. Dent. That's a Batman reference. First, the misconduct as IHOP closely resembles when misconduct happens in the church. We have an environment which is supposed to be a safe space for young people to grow and develop their skills. We have a hierarchy of individuals with power over that environment, either to confront evil or turn a blind eye to it. And those in power have responded inconsistently to major versus minor sin, or in this case, major versus minor policy violations. Secondly, this IHOP restaurant example shows how a lack of effective training can create a Russian nesting doll effect. Apparently, McNasty wasn't effectively trained how to not harass his coworkers. Miss Dunce wasn't effectively trained how to identify the severity of misconduct. And the highest level of authority, Mr. Dent, was shown to be two-faced himself. He was a harasser. If they'd had training which matched policies, those in power may have responded correctly to misconduct, but they didn't. The end result was that the misconduct ultimately destroyed the careers of McNasty and Miss Dunce and Mr. Dent, and our story has a happy ending only because Kat and Mindy were vindicated in the courts. But what about all the girls who came before them? What about the least of these in our own organizations? Systemic abuse in churches doesn't just pop into existence like a fiend of springing from Zeus's forehead. It needs to metastasize. Policies and good intentions on their own are not enough to stop this kind of cancer. To use an example, wanting to be healthy and thinking cigarettes are gross is not going to prevent problems if you never get a physical and you smoke 3 packs a day. Intentions have to match actions. And when they don't, intentions aren't intentions so much as nice ideas. Also, actions must be communicated and tracked. That means training, and in the case of child safety, it includes tracking and probably accreditation. Regardless of how you do it, people can't confront harassment if they don't know what to do. And that's not something they can wait to find out on the job. That kind of tomorrow will take care of itself attitude, when it's applied in the context of child safety, is how you turn the least of these from people the church is serving into yet another news statistics of those who've been harmed. The good news is that with proper training and tracking, misconduct can be prevented. In our next Stupid Things, we're going to discuss how.